Hi everyone, welcome back to my July wrap-up. I thought for a change, since it's such a beautiful day, I would try filming outside. Hopefully you'll be able to hear me and everything. I'm kind of working out the kinks in filming outside. I've tried this once before a long time ago, and between air conditioning sounds, factory sounds, just the wind blowing and the speakers, it's sort of hard to, rather than the microphone, it's sort of hard to get everything working right. So hopefully this will be good. So for my July wrap-up, I got through 20 books this month. A bit shocked myself. I think the Booktubeathon kind of helped jumpstart my wanting to read more, and also some of the books I selected. I mean, I have like 5 graphic novels, so those are like almost one-day reads, and I have about 6 audiobooks, and those I was able to listen to straight through at work for almost an 8-hour period. And then being a lot of them middle-grade books, those you could literally finish in one day, so that kind of accounts for the large number, which still is a bit of a shock for me. But anyway, I'm going to start out with the audiobooks. One of the first ones I listened to was Lord of the Flies. I won't bother inserting a picture. We all pretty much have seen this book. A lot of people have had to read it for school, which I did quite some time ago. And this was part of the Booktubeathon selection for a reread a book. Also, I chose it for my classic and audiobook, so it kind of knocked out 3 challenges right in a row. What can you say? It is a classic. It's a fantastic read, even the second time, and I gave that one 5 stars. The next audio I listened to was a book by Darren Shan, and it is called Zom-B, and Zom-B. I'll put a picture of it here. Now, Zom-B is the first in a series of books. I believe there's 5 out currently, and it's set for YA, and it's about a young character by the name of B, who we know only as B through most of the book, until about halfway through. Now, B's father is an abusive racist, and I think it spends most of the time dealing with this character and B's relationship to the father, and the father kind of takes B along to meetings, almost of like a white supremacist nature, and you get the idea of how horrible this person is. And I spent most of this time, there's some hints at some zombie sightings earlier in the book, and you wonder when the big zombie attack is going to happen. It does take quite a while before it kicks in. So the first half of the book I found a little tough to get through. Excuse me, got a bug. A little tough to get through with the whole dealing with this horrible character. And like I said, B, you kind of see, actually has friends who happen to be black, and yet sometimes spews out these sayings that he's picked up from the father, and it's sort of this kind of warring in their self-conscious, or whatever you want to call it, in terms of, the love they have for the father and feelings, of B's own, and I wrote a full review of this one on Goodreads. I won't go into too much detail of it. It kind of ran off to a slow start, but once the zombie attack kicks in and the cliffhanger at the end was just amazing. I would definitely recommend it if you can get through that first part, but it gives you an insight into the main character. So for that one I gave 3 stars for beginning of the series. The next audio I listened to was Book 1 in the Incorrigible Children of Ashton Place by Maryrose Wood, and Book 1 is called The Mysterious Howling, and here's a picture. So this is a middle grade book, and it's about 3 orphans that are sort of found on the grounds, living in the woods of Ashton Place, and are brought to live there. They are quite wild. They've pretty much been raised by wolves, so they howl a lot. And the funny thing was, I'm listening to this on audio at work, so my biggest fear was someone would walk into the back room when all these strange howling sounds would be coming from my speaker, and they'd think, what the heck are you listening to? The characters are pretty interesting. The family ends up hiring a governess to come and take care of them and pretty much keep them out of the hair of the owners of the place. There's just not a lot happened with it. They kind of adapt to their new surroundings and the governess, and learning and being re-educated and everything pretty quickly. I was expecting a little bit more wildness and craziness to ensue, and there is one scene somewhat like that, but there wasn't enough to make it that interesting. Overall, I gave that one just 3 stars. The next audio I listened to was Dowell Bones by Holly Black, and another picture. So Dowell Bones is, I think, geared for middle grade readers, and I didn't have a physical copy of the book, but I think that the book has illustrations through it. So sometime I would like to maybe pick up a physical copy of it and reread it and kind of enjoy it with the illustrations. But this is a story of like 3 children with very vivid imaginations. They're around 12 years old. I know the oldest boy is 12. I don't know if the 2 girls that are his friends were of exactly the same age. I get the impression one was younger, but I don't remember that it actually stated their ages. But they're all pretty young, and they all have very vivid imaginations. They like to create stories and adventures with their action adventures or dolls. And in fact, the boy gets ribbed quite often by the brothers of one of the girls for doing this. He thinks it's very childish of him, but they really enjoy coming up with these adventures and almost feeling like they're living them themselves. And there's one doll in particular that belongs to the mother of one of the girls, and she's like this old doll with a porcelain face, and she's locked up in a glass cabinet, and the mother does not let them play with it or anything. So they've kind of created this storyline around her, like she's the queen, and she sends them off on these crusades and missions, and they're acting on her behalf. And through the course of the story, something happens where one of the girls actually removes the doll from the case and discovers inside, when she removes the head, I don't know if it fell off or whatever, but inside the body of the doll, there's a bag that contains ash and bones. And she claims that the ghost of the young girl that these bones belong to appeared to her and demands that she be taken and buried back in her hometown, and that these kids now have to go on this mission. So at first the boy and the other girl doubt that she actually saw this. It was something with her imagination, but they kind of get involved in this whole story, and through the course of our reading it, you begin to wonder, did she really see something? Because some odd things happened to the children. I really liked the story. It had a nice creepy tone to it. I liked the characters. They were very well developed in the background and everything, and I really recommend that one. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read was The Willoughbys by Lois Lowry. Insert picture. So The Willoughbys is a middle grade book, and it focuses on 4 children in this family. The oldest son is named Timothy. There are the 2 twins, both named Barnaby, because it's like the parents couldn't be bothered to give them a separate name. So to keep them separate, they name them A and B. So there's Barnaby A and Barnaby B. And then their younger sister, Jane, being a girl, she doesn't write more than 1 syllable of a name. So a lot of quirky characters. The parents are quite strange. I mean, the mother's busy knitting a sweater for the cat, as opposed to knitting a separate sweater for one of the other Barnabys. So they end up sharing a sweater. There's a lot of weird, quirky things going on there. The kids end up finding a baby on their doorstep. They bring it to the parents, who decide they do not want another child. So they say, go put it, go get rid of the baby, take it somewhere else. And they decide to drop it off at this one doorstep, along with a note saying that her name is Ruth. And that's Timothy's idea. When the other kids ask, why did you name her Ruth? And he says, because she's ruthless. We are now the ruthless Willoughbys. So, meaning, since they're giving her away, they are without a Ruth. Ruthless. I know, it's really kind of goofy. But the person who ends up raising her had suffered some tragedy in the past, and believing to have lost his wife and son, and decides to raise this girl. And his storyline kind of ends up circling around and reconnecting with the Willoughbys, and it was okay. It wasn't a whole lot happening in it. I mean, it's probably suitable for middle grade, not really enough to maybe hold the attention of an older reader or anything really deep enough. I guess it just kind of, I flew through and I thought, well, it's okay, so I only gave that one 3 stars. The next the last of the audiobooks that I listened to was absolutely my favorite one, and this was I Hunt Killers by Barry Lyga. Insert picture. So I Hunt Killers is a YA thriller focused on a young boy whose father was a serial killer. He had killed over 100 people, and at the start of the story, he's currently incarcerated. He would often take his son along, sort of take your son to work day, rather gruesome. He would also expose him to some of the items he'd brought back from his victims, what he would consider trophies. So he had a lot of insight from when he was a young boy into the mind of a serial killer, in this case his father. And as the story breaks out, a murder has taken place in his town, and he overhears it through a police scanner and kind of sneaks up on the scene. And when the police go, he kind of goes and takes a closer look, and finds ways to get information, thinking, well, he kind of pretends he's going to visit the police detective, the one who kind of helped catch his father, where he's actually sneaking a peek at the police report and things like that. But he instantly recognizes signs that a serial killer is at hand here, and this may not be his first victim. There may be more to come. And through the course of the story, he is trying to solve this crime and stop the killer, even though the police keep trying to tell him to stop. And sometimes it almost looks like he may be the guilty one, the suspect, because he seems to know a little too much. And it was really interesting when you find out who the killer is, quite a reveal. Just the whole pacing of the story, it really holds your attention. You don't want to stop reading, or in my case, listening. I just zipped right through it. I just wanted to know more. It's really well written, very interesting characters. Sorry about all the background noise. But yeah, I definitely recommend this one. I give this one 5 stars. I'm going to try and go a little bit faster because I'm worried this is going to be very long. One of the books I picked for the book-to-thon was Novella, Dr. Noel's Time and Relative, and it's by Kim Newman. Real thin book. It's just set in the time, very beginning of Doctor Who's story. We meet Susan Hill, the supposed granddaughter of the Doctor, and she has sort of memory block of some sort. She doesn't seem to remember a lot of where they were before they arrived on Earth and her attendance at Coal Hill School. Sometimes she has little snippets of stuff. She knows that she and her grandfather are different, that they live in a box that's bigger on the inside, that he is some sort of scientist. But it's like a lot of things are blocked from her, so then we don't get that insight as much as I would have liked. It's very slow. There is some interesting kind of ice-type creatures that appear about midway through, and then the action kind of ramps up. But overall, because of the slowness and no real big reveal or anything like that, I only gave this 3 stars. I read The Power of Six, or I finished sort of listening to it on audio. I had owned the book for a while, and I kind of included that as part of my book-to-thon. This is the second book in the I Am Number 4 series, and it's by Pittacus lore, and it was rather disappointing, I must say. Most of the time, it's for kind of pining about how much he, I forgot the girl's name now, believe it or not, but how much he misses his girlfriend, and how much he loves her, and he wants to go back, and he's hanging out with his buddy, Sam and Six, and they're sort of on the run. And in the process of training, it's, to be able to fight better. Six is very powerful, which we come to reveal in this, and some of the things she can do. But and he also starts to sort of almost feel like he's having feelings for her too. So he keeps saying, "No, I really love my girlfriend." But that just kind of get repetitive, and I found it kind of boring after a bit. It's like, oh, come on, move on with the story. You don't get the big action till near the very end, but it almost seemed like a filler of a book. And overall, I only gave this 3 stars. Did have a really good ending though, and makes me want to pick up the next one, so I still will continue with the series. The next 2 books I'm going to show you are books I received for review. The first one is Light and Dark, The Awakening of the Mage Knight by Daniel M. Fife. I did post a full review of this on Goodreads, so you can go and check it out, and it is a YA kind of action fantasy type book about a boy named Daniel Firoth and his friends. They come to discover that they have sort of a power that enables them to possibly train to become knights. It's the White Rock Academy School of Illumination. It's for squires and knights of the light. So there's a battle between light and dark. It's a good and evil type story. The writing overall was fairly good. There's parts where it just seemed a bit overly descriptive. I think they could have thinned out the book a little bit and made it flow a little faster. And I would have liked a little bit more character development for Danny's friends, but Danny himself, we get a lot of insight into his character, and I did like the concept of it. Is definitely like a Harry Potter meets Lord of the Rings kind of storyline, and like I said, go and check out my review for Goodreads. I gave this one 4 stars. I also received for review Roots by Kelbian Noel, and this is the first in the Witchbound series, and this is about 2 twins, Baltimore and Brooklyn. Brooklyn's the female, and her brother kind of left the family quite some time ago. It seems like over a year or so, and just kind of broke ties with them for no particular reason. But the parents never speak about it, and she misses her twin and wants to, she's kind of been in contact with him but not seen him. So she kind of makes some excuse to sneak off and go see him. And when she's there, she finds a very different brother than the one she knew before. They both come from a family of sort of witches. They never took it seriously. It never really seemed to be something that worked for them. It was something just their parents were involved in, maybe more like a Wiccan religion than an actual ability. But she gets a bit of an eye awakening when she meets up with her brother. And like I said, he kind of turns against her. And it's really interesting. I posted a full review on this, so definitely go and check it out. And it's one I would recommend reading. I'm definitely looking forward to continuing it. I gave this one 4 stars. Another middle grade book I read was The Thief Lord by Cornelia Funke. This is set in Venice, and it's about 2 boys, Prospero and his younger brother Beau. They've recently become orphaned, and their aunt and uncle want to adopt Beau, but they really aren't interested in Prospero. They're looking for like the perfect child, someone to kind of like show off, you might say, to their friends and stuff in society, and Prospero doesn't quite fit that mold, I guess. But he, of course, does not want to be separated from his brother, and Beau doesn't want to be separated from his brother, so they sneak off and are on the run. And they meet up with the young 13-year-old boy nicknamed the Thief Lord and kind of join their gang, his gang, and they're living in a kind of a disused theater. And they go off on runs and steal things to make money. And through the course of that, they take on a job to steal an item from this woman. And from this point, magic sort of enters into the storyline. And I thought it was at first a little bit slow, but it really got quite interesting with that whole aspect of it. And I really enjoyed the story. I definitely recommend picking it up. I gave this one 4 stars. The next 3 books are all written in a rather unique mold, not just from a narrative. They use something different to tell the story, you might say. The first one is Why We Broke Up by Daniel Handler, and it's about a girl in the process of breaking up with her boyfriend, and she is sending him a box of items, and they're all shown like throughout the book in photos, illustrations. And each one has a bit of a storyline, and it's from her point of view, her perspective, as she's describing these items and the events surrounding them, and each one ends with, this is why we broke up. But it was so exceedingly boring. I know a lot of people like this book. It just wasn't for me. I didn't find any of the individual stories all that interesting or revelations as to why they broke up until the very, very end, which then it becomes rather an obvious kind of conclusion. You know it's coming. But I just didn't really connect with the character. I didn't like the way it was really told. It just didn't work for me. I only gave this 1 star. It's one of my lowest ratings. The next one is The Turning by Francine Prose. It's a retelling of The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. And it's about a boy, what's his name? Jack. And he is spending the summer on an isolated island, being like a guardian for 2 children, Miles and Flora, I believe it was. And their uncle, who is raising them, really doesn't want to know anything about what takes place on the island. He doesn't care. He's going to be the sole guardian for the kids for 2 months, along with another woman who lives there, and she's sort of like the cook and has been taking care of them. So it's just the 4 of them supposedly on the island. En route to the island, some strange things happen with this bird that he envisions that it's like actually screaming at him to go home. He sees some strange figures on the ferry, and he encounters some ghostly apparitions of 2 of the caretakers that used to work there. This is told strictly in letters, and it's letters of Jack writing to Sophie, his girlfriend back home, and some of the letters are just exceedingly long. I mean, they're chapter-length letters to the point where you forget that you're reading a letter. It doesn't quite work. There's like full dialogue in there, and no way he would remember this dialogue to impart it then in a letter. Occasionally he writes to his dad, and occasionally you would get return letters from Sophie back to him. But you kind of see the deterioration in his mental thinking, and he starts to believe that she's cheating on him, and why aren't you writing back? And he gets really upset, and things just take a dark turn for the main character. I think this could have been a lot better. I don't think just writing the story in letters worked here. I think maybe if they used letters as an addition to first-person narrative, that might have been a little bit more interesting. You would get more description or detail. I also would have liked a little bit more creepiness thrown in. I'm currently reading the original classic, so that's got the nice gothic twist in it, and I'm enjoying that much more. So I only gave this one 3 stars. And another differently told story is 13 Reasons Why by J. Asher. And boy by the name of Clay has received a box with a series of cassettes in there from a girl that he used to know that had recently committed suicide, and in it she names several people who are kind of in part responsible, or that she sees that played a hand in her reasoning for committing suicide. So that was definitely a unique point of view. It was very moving when the main character trying to figure out, what he did. Did he do something wrong? What part did he play in it? Why did she do it? And hearing the other people's stories. And each person who's named in there has to pass on these cassettes to the next person. Otherwise, the second set of tapes will automatically be made public. So they want to keep whatever part they did secret. They have to make sure that they each one pass it on to the next person. So like I said, it was very moving, very well told. Definitely recommend this one. I gave this one 5 stars. The next group, I'm just going to whip on through. They're all graphic novels. I got a copy of Scott Westerfeld's Uglies, Shay's story. This is based on the Uglies series, and it's told instead of from Tally Youngblood's point of view, as the stories were told. This is told by her friend Shay, and it's black and white. I like the illustrations in it. It doesn't really reveal a whole lot, too much. It shows kind of how Shay met David and found out about the smoke, which if you read the series, you know what that means. And how she then eventually meets Tally. So you do see a little bit of Tally in it, but it was interesting seeing the stuff from her perspective and her feelings for David, and how that kind of changed when Tally shows up. So there's another sequel to this one, which I'm looking forward to picking up next, but I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Then as a group, I picked up the Parasyte manga series. This is, they don't have individual names, it's just Parasyte Book 1, Book 2, Book 3, and Book 4. And you see they're quite goofy characters, but it's a story of a young boy by the name of Izumi, and these alien parasites that have fallen from the sky and embedded themselves in the brains of several humans. And when it tries to get into Izumi's head, he has earphones and he's fallen asleep, and usually they pass through the ear into the brain, attach themselves to the brain and take over. Well, they couldn't get in, so it tries to get up his nose, and he senses it, grabs it, wakes up, and thinks he has a snake, and he throws it, and the thing launches back at him, puts his hand up, and it embeds in his hand. So he's now trying to stop it from traveling up, and he ropes off his arm, and there's a struggle going on, and eventually it's too late for the parasite to travel any further, and has now attached itself into the hand. He wakes up the next morning thinking he's imagined it was a nightmare or whatever, but then he ends up with eyeballs kind of looking at him, and a mouth, and it can communicate with him. It's very strange. It can do a lot of weird things. It can turn into this kind of creature and stuff, and he ends up finding out more and more about these parasites. It's a little bit darker. It's geared for ages 16 and up. A little bit gory at times, what these creatures can do to humans, and their reasoning for wanting to take over humans. I definitely recommend it. I can't wait to pick up the next bunch. I've got 5 and 6 ready to go, so they're really quick reads and really awesome if you're looking for a good manga, a little creepy manga. The very last book I read is Light by Michael Grant. This was also part of my Booktubeathon challenges to complete a series. It's the last book in the Gone series. It was phenomenal. What can you say? I can't go into detail of it because, of course, it's the last in the series. I definitely recommend you read this series if you haven't. This is the best wrap-up to any series I've ever come across. It's just amazing, amazing. I gave this one 5 stars. So, without further ado, I'm going to wrap this one up quickly. Thank you for watching. I hope this wasn't too long because I don't have a timer, so I'm just going to say goodbye. Thanks for watching. Happy reading.